I was still holding the pie when my father told me not to come back. It was a warm butternut custard, her favorite. I'd baked it the night before, following Grandma June's old instructions, the one that called for extra cinnamon and a strange little splash of molasses. She never let anyone skip that part. I had driven almost 3 hours through thick fog to deliver it to her, just like I did every year. It was Thanksgiving. I thought I was home. We hadn't even bowed our heads for the blessing yet. The turkey was untouched, the carving knife still resting on its folded napkin. The stuffing sat piping hot in that etched glass bowl my mother only used for holidays. I was still on my feet, still smiling, still holding that pie. That's when my dad said, "Return the $50,000, Mara, or don't bother coming back." At first, I thought I'd misunderstood him. Maybe he was making some dark joke, even though that wasn't like him. My father wasn't the dramatic type, and Thanksgiving wasn't the place for confrontations. At least not in our family. Not until that night. But no one laughed. My sister Carly sat straight across from me, her hands locked together in her lap like she was attending a memorial. My brother Joel stared down at the woven table runner, saying nothing. Even my mom, gentle, quiet mom, couldn't look me in the eye, and I didn't sit. I couldn't. The pie dish felt suddenly too heavy, like I'd been holding it for hours. I stared at it, blankly, as though it might somehow explain what was going on. "Excuse me?" I said. Dad's jaw clenched. "Let's not turn this into more than it needs to be." "What are you actually saying?" I asked. Carly finally looked up. Her eyes were bloodshot, the corners darkened with smudged eyeliner like she'd been crying most of the day, but her voice was firm. "Mom's savings account, $50,000 vanished last month, right after you helped her with the online setup." My mouth opened, but I couldn't form a single word. It was true. I had helped Mom set up her banking. She'd been hesitant about switching to digital, said she didn't trust anything that lived in the cloud. So one Sunday afternoon, I sat down with her at the kitchen table. I guided her through the mobile app, helped her create her login, set the passwords and security prompts. She even jotted it all down in a small spiral notebook we kept in the drawer by the sink. That was a month ago, 4 weeks exactly, and now they were saying that was the moment I stole from her. "Are you being serious?" I whispered. "You really think I took Mom's money?" Joel finally spoke. His voice was tight, like saying it strained something inside him. We didn't want to believe it, but the bank confirmed everything. The transfers were all made online, and no one else had access. No one except me. I turned toward Mom. She didn't react. No nod, no shake of her head, just lifted her napkin to her lips like she was about to be sick. That's when the reality hit me. The pie, the hours on the road, the annual tradition. None of it mattered anymore. I wasn't their daughter sitting at the table. I was just someone they suspected. I placed the pie gently on the counter. The metal tin gave a soft tap against the stone. Then I picked up my coat from the back of the dining chair, where I'd draped it earlier. I didn't say a word. "You've got until Friday," Dad said quietly behind me. "After that, we take it to the attorney." I didn't cry once I got to the car. I didn't shout or punch the steering wheel like people do in films. I just drove. My coat was still half-fastened. The pie was still sitting untouched on the kitchen counter. Outside, the town was calm. Porch lights glowed. Paper turkeys hung in windows. Thanksgiving night carried the scent of spice and roasted comfort, but not for me. I checked into the Pine Hollow Motor Lodge, the kind of place I'd driven past for years on the way into town, but never once thought to stop at. The front desk clerk didn't ask why I needed a room on a holiday night, and I silently appreciated that small kindness. The room smelled faintly of stale carpet and reheated snacks. I slipped off my boots and sat at the edge of the bed, my hands still trembling. I was 34. A lead auditor in financial compliance, trusted with multi-million-dollar portfolios, and yet my own family believed I had stolen from them. The hardest part, I wasn't even shocked, not completely. There had been signs, subtle ones. The way Carly would glance away whenever Mom gushed about my career. The way Dad once asked, "Don't you think it's time to slow down a bit? Start actually living?" As if the work I'd built my life around somehow didn't count. Even last December, when I offered to pay for the new shingles on the roof, Joel muttered something under his breath about how I was trying to earn affection. I thought they were teasing. I thought we were close. I thought we were still family. I lay back on the stiff comforter and stared up at the ceiling tiles. I tried to retrace everything from that day. Mom had asked for help with her bank login. I remembered each click, every password, every reset. Was there something I missed? Could someone else have found the notebook we tucked in the drawer? That drawer was never locked. Anyone could have opened it. Carly was still living at home, on and off, depending on whatever was going on in her life. Joel had a spare key. Yes, I was the one who walked Mom through the setup, but that didn't mean I was the only one who knew. Still, they believed it. Believed I'd waited until Mom's health declined so I could take her savings. $50,000, as if I needed it, as if I ever would. My phone buzzed, a message from Carly. "We didn't want it to come to this, but you made it hard to trust you. No, happy Thanksgiving. No, hope you're doing okay." Just that message, as if I'd crossed some line, as if I was the one who needed to make things right. I turned the phone face down. In my job, I spend my days tracing hidden accounts, phony companies, and forged invoices. I know what embezzlement looks like. And more importantly, I know when someone tries to pin it on the wrong person. And right now, someone had chosen me to take the fall. I stared at the ceiling until the overhead lights turned hazy. If they wanted to treat me like the family's suspect, then maybe it was time I started acting like an investigator. I woke up early the next morning, no alarm, just instinct. After over a decade in financial forensics, I'd learned a simple truth. Money doesn't vanish. It just moves. The key is figuring out who moved it and why. I poured a cup of burnt lobby coffee and opened my laptop on the motel's narrow desk. My firm had recently opened an inquiry into a troubling trend. Seniors with modest savings were having their accounts drained in 3 nearly identical withdrawals, each just below the federal threshold that triggers automatic reporting. It was happening across multiple banks, but one name kept popping up more than the rest. Greenbridge Mutual. Mom's bank. I hadn't told my family I was connected to the investigation. It was sensitive, technically classified, but I had internal clearance. I knew exactly who to reach out to. I sent a quick note to Theo, the compliance lead on the case. Just a name, a date range, and a city. Less than an hour later, he sent me the files. Transaction timestamps, withdrawal totals, teller records, 3 separate withdrawals from Mom's account, each 5 days apart. First, $20,000, then $15,000, and finally another $15,000, all done in person, not a single one online. That was the first crack in their story. They'd accused me of using digital access, said I was the only one who could have done it. But if those withdrawals were made face-to-face, it wasn't me. Theo had attached security footage. I clicked the first video link. It loaded grainy footage from Greenbridge Mutual, October 10th, 2:13 p.m. A young woman stepped up to the counter, shifting nervously, glancing around. Blonde ponytail, gray sweatshirt, oversized sunglasses. At first, I thought maybe it was a hired stand-in, someone pretending to be Mom. A stranger paid to slip in and out unnoticed. But then the woman leaned forward, pulled her mask down to speak to the teller. It was Carly. Even through the grainy footage, I recognized that face without hesitation. I'd read bedtime stories to that face, seen it light up over birthday cake, and helped dry its tears after breakups. She was shifting on her feet, tapping her fingers against the counter. She handed over what looked like Mom's ID and scribbled a signature on a form. Same old handwriting. Hadn't changed since the days she doodled on her math homework. I leaned back in the chair. The overhead bulb buzzed faintly, casting a flicker across the motel's peeling wallpaper. This wasn't a moment of weakness. They hadn't just taken the money, they'd orchestrated it. They'd waited until I helped Mom set up digital access. They used that exact window to set the stage. And then they pointed the finger at me. I opened the second video, dated October 15th, same bank. This time it was Joel, no disguise, no anxiety. He was relaxed, even smiled at the teller, made small talk like the account was his. He signed with ease, no hesitation. Then the third clip, Carly again. Same gray hoodie, but a different pair of sunglasses this time. The way she moved, casual, careless, made my skin prickle. They hadn't been afraid, they'd been confident. But one piece was still missing. How did they get their hands on Mom's documents and banking info? And then it clicked. 2 weeks before I walked Mom through the banking app, she had outpatient tests at Westvale Medical. Nothing serious, just standard scans. Carly had volunteered to stay overnight with her. She'd had full access to Mom's purse, her checkbook, her account statements, her driver's license. That's where it began, but it didn't end there. I pulled up the account metadata, looked at the login details from the first time Mom's profile was accessed after I left town. It wasn't her phone. It came from a tablet connected to the home Wi-Fi, the exact same IP address Carly used to stream Netflix. And the one-time password, it had been sent to a backup email I'd never set up. They'd covered every angle. I looked it up. The backup phone number linked to the account recovery belonged to Joel. They hadn't just been careless, they were confident, too confident. They figured no one would question it, not when the successful sibling made for the most convenient scapegoat, not when everyone else was united in quiet agreement. I shut the laptop. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a financial emergency gone sideways or some favor they planned to pay back. This was intentional. It was theft, and they'd hidden it behind the trust I'd built with Mom. I zipped up my laptop case and picked up my phone, not to call the authorities. Not yet. I dialed my office. I asked Theo for something specific, copies of the teller signature slips. I'd need them. Then I unzipped my suitcase and pulled out a narrow black presentation folder, the kind I used when prepping evidence for litigation. If they were so determined to cast me as the family's villain, I'd show them what it looks like when the villain brings documentation. I didn't give anyone a heads up. I made the drive back Monday afternoon, right as the sunlight began tilting into that warm, slanted glow it always had this time of year, just past Halloween, before the holiday lights went up. The kind of glow that once made that house feel like the safest place on earth. Not today. The driveway was packed. Joel's SUV, Carly's little hatchback, Mom's old beige sedan. No visitors, just them. I parked along the curb and stayed there a minute. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. My hands rested on the black folder in my lap. The folder that held every proof, every date, every quiet deception they thought would stay buried. Then I stepped out, up the porch, opened the door without knocking. The air smelled like broth and rosemary. The kitchen lights were bright. I could hear the soft hum of voices, the clink of dishes. A laugh floated out, a laugh that didn't include me anymore. I walked in and found them in the kitchen. Carly was sitting on the counter, coffee in hand, feet swinging like a teenager. Joel stood near the fridge, arms crossed, his face unreadable. Mom was at the sink, towel in hand, drying dishes with the slow rhythm of habit. Dad was at the stove, stirring a pot. They all looked up as I stepped into the room, and in that moment, everything went still. No one said a word. I walked past them, straight to the kitchen island, the same surface where we used to roll dough for sugar cookies every December, and placed the black folder down. Then I opened it. "You believed I took money from Mom," I said, my voice low and steady. "Let me show you what actually happened." Something shifted in the room, not loudly, not visibly, but the air felt tighter, like the seconds before a thunderstorm rolls in. I pulled out the first photo, a still image from the bank's security feed. Carly in sunglasses leaning over the counter signing a form. "October 10th, $20,000, I said. "Not online, not me." No one moved, not even Carly. I placed the second photo beside it, Joel in a navy pullover, grinning as he handed over a check. "October 15th, $15,000. My voice trembled slightly, not from rage, but from control. These weren't strangers. These were the same people I used to eat ice cream with on the porch. The same people who knew my middle name. Carly tightened her grip on her mug. She opened her mouth to speak, then shut it again. I laid down the teller forms, one by one. "Same branch, same signatures," I said. "I compared them to your handwriting, Carly, from that sticky note you left on the fridge last week." A pause. Then, finally, Carly said something. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. You went through our things. I tilted my head, slow and calm. You went through Mom's. Mom reached out then, her hands slightly shaky, fingers brushing over the papers as she scanned the text. Her voice, when it came, was soft, hesitant. But the bank told me it was online, she said. That's what they believed, I replied. But the actual withdrawals weren't. The digital access came after, through a tablet connected to your home network. The recovery email was linked to Joel's number. Silence settled like dust in the room. Dad stopped stirring whatever he had in the pot. Carly stared off to the side. Joel kept his eyes on the floor, like he might find a way out of this in the tile grout. You let me believe my daughter stole from me, Mom said in a whisper. She wasn't looking at anyone, not even at me, just speaking it aloud to the space between us. You told me not to come back, I said, quieter still, and you never asked if I did it. That was what cut the deepest. Not the accusation, not even the lawyer. It was the silence where the question should have been. Carly finally looked at me. Her expression wasn't apologetic. It was sharp, twisted, shaped more by resentment than regret. You always end up with everything, she said. The job, the compliments, the way people listen to you. Her voice tightened. I just wanted to even things out. I studied her for a moment. She looked different than she had the week before. Tired, older. Or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. You didn't even the field, I said quietly. You set it on fire. Joel cleared his throat. His voice was flat, distant. Mom will be okay. Cameron earns more than all of us put together. It wasn't personal. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm the cold rising beneath my skin. It's always personal, I said, when it's your own family. I watched Mom lower herself into a chair, the folder still lying open in front of her. She didn't touch it. Her hands rested in her lap, palms open, as if even she didn't know what they were supposed to do next. Dad was the one who finally spoke. Cameron, he said, what are you going to do now? I met his eyes for the first time in days, and I didn't feel like a child anymore. I'm not filing charges, I said, but I've sent everything to the family attorney. What happens next is your decision. He nodded once, a quiet, weary nod. He looked older than I remembered. I closed the folder. My hands moved without thinking, like they had hundreds of times in conference rooms and court prep sessions. Only this time, it felt like closure. You told me not to come back unless I returned the money, I said. I didn't take the money, but I brought the truth. I let the words hang there, gave them space, and then I turned to leave. Cameron, Mom said, her voice cracking a little. I paused at the door. Thanksgiving's over, I said. You all made sure of that. I walked out without another word. I didn't take the folder. I didn't take the pie, just my keys, and whatever part of me had still been hoping they would choose me. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car for a long time, parked just past the driveway, watching the glow of the kitchen through the window. No one came after me. The lights stayed on. Carly didn't laugh again. Joel didn't come out to say anything. No one followed me down the steps or called my name. And that silence, that stillness, told me more than any words could have. Back in Cambridge, the city felt colder, quieter, sharper around the edges. I went back to the office and settled into my routine like nothing had happened. But something in me had shifted. I stopped making my usual Sunday night calls, muted the family chat, let the voicemail notification blink on my phone for 3 full days before I finally listened. It was from Mom. Cameron, we were wrong. I see that now. I guess I didn't want to believe it at first. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just wanted you to know. The house feels empty. She hung up before the message reached a minute. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Not a text, not an email, an actual letter. Real envelope, real handwriting. Inside was a photo. Me, Carly, and Joel, maybe 6, 8, and 10, sitting on the porch in Halloween costumes that didn't match. I was dressed as a scarecrow. Carly had foil wings taped to her back. Joel was covered head to toe in red paint. No one ever figured out what he was supposed to be. On the back of the photo, just one sentence: "We didn't realize how much we'd miss you until you weren't here." No name, no return address. Joel never contacted me. Carly didn't either. But a cousin who still lived nearby mentioned offhandedly that both of them had moved out. Mom apparently had stopped speaking to them, said she needed time. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't offer to come back. Instead, I started something new. A weekend seminar at the local community college, focused on financial safety for aging adults. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid. Something I could shape with my own hands, something that helped. One Saturday after class, an older woman came up to me and said, "I wish I had a daughter like you." I gave her a polite smile, didn't say what I was really thinking. Mine did too, once. December came and went that year without a tree, without a phone call, without the usual box of ornaments we used to trade by mail. I used to plan for that season. There's a kind of grief no one warns you about, the kind that doesn't come from losing someone to death, but from watching the people you love believe a version of you that isn't real. And once they decide that version fits better than the truth, there's no way to undo it. I still have the folder, not in my office, not out on display. It sits tucked away in a drawer near the bookshelf, beneath old tax documents and a copy of the mortgage agreement. I haven't opened it since that night. I don't need to. The facts haven't changed, and neither have I.